Let's get into a little bit of object-oriented programming with classes. So the application we'll work on is an FAQ application, and this is what it's going to do. You're going to be able to display all the FAQs in a list. Each FAQ will be an object, an instance of the FAQ class. You'll be able to add an FAQ to the list, edit a question, edit an answer. Most of the code has been provided for brevity here, and let's see what we have to do. So for selection 1, here's where we want to display all the FAQs. They'll be in a list. We'll step through the list, grab each object, put it in the FAQ loop variable, and then just display the FAQ. In number 2 here, we'll create an instance of that FAQ and add it to our FAQs list. And in number 3 and 4, we'll ask the user to provide an index into the list of which FAQ they want to change the question on or the answer, and then that's what we'll do. Okay, so to define the FAQ class, we need to create a constructor, and first off, the class definition starts with the keyword class and the name of the class, and this one we'll call FAQ. And then constructors have an implied name. First off, they're a method, and methods within a class are defined just like a function using the def keyword. Def has to be indented inside the class to make sure it belongs to it, and the constructor always starts with 2 underscores, the word init, followed by 2 underscores, and then our list of parameters. There's an implied parameter called self, which identifies to Python a particular instance of the class, and all the attributes are referenced using self and a period. So the other 2 parameters will be, for this class, will be a question and an answer. And then we'll assign those parameters to our class attributes. The 2 attributes are question and answer. Okay, there's nothing to return for a constructor. We'll just have an empty return statement. Well, okay, let's make our documentation correct here. Okay, so we're going to move our constructor definition under the comments for it. So 6 to 10, move it to 16. There we go. All right. Next up, we have just one method in this class. It's called the show method. And for that, we use the def identifier. Again, we have to indent that, provide the name of the method, and we're not passing in any arguments, but we do have to identify or include the implied parameter of self. Okay, so in here, we want to create a string suitable for display. All right, that'll be, let's put it in a variable called MSG, not for monosodium glutamate, but short for message. Okay, so we're going to have a question. And then on the next line, we'll use a \n for a line break. We'll have an answer. And then put that into the string using our attributes. So self, that's what the self keyword is for. Question, that identifies the particular question belonging to this object. Okay, and our answer. That should do that, and we want to send this back to where it's called from. Okay. Now that we've got our class defined, let's put it to good use. On line 26, you see our list called FAQs. That's where our FAQ objects or instances of the FAQ class will be stored. Scrolling down, we see that for item 1, this is where we'll be displaying our list of FAQs, but let's start with number 2, where we create our FAQ objects. Okay, so we've asked the user for a question, we've asked the user for an answer. Here's where we're appending our new FAQ. Let's fill in the code. We'll call the constructor for the class by using the class name with our 2 arguments here, quest and ans. When Python sees this, it'll go to the class definition and look for underscore underscore init underscore underscore. We'll pass these 2 arguments to the parameters 2 and 3 of the constructor. Self is implied. Python fills that in itself. That's just to identify which particular FAQ this is. The 2 arguments here are used to store in our 2 attributes, question and answer, which have to be preceded with self, because these are particular to this particular instance of this class. And I use the term instance and object interchangeable. They both mean the same thing. Okay, so we've created our instance of the class, and here we store it in the list. Let's go up here and take a look at what we have to do to display our FAQ. So we've got our list, FAQs, and the for loop is going to step us through that, taking each element in the list, which is an object, and storing that in our variable, our for loop variable called FAQ. And how do we do this? Well, we've got our method, which we called show, and we'll put that into a string. It is a string. We'll just fetch it with our object and our method. We don't have to pass, once again, we don't have to pass self. That's implied. When Python sees this, it'll go to the class definition. It'll say, okay, this is a particular object. It's in self. And our method returns the string that we want for display. Okay, so we've got the string that we want to display, so we'll put that into a print statement. Let's include the number of the FAQ and the FAQ itself. So the num is in variable num. That's what I defined up here on 46. This is just for display purposes, and then FAQ str. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, I run it here. Let's add an FAQ. Okay, so it's going to be, question is North Korea. What do we do about North Korea? What's the answer for that? It's golf. Okay, how about, let's add another FAQ. Climate change. That's a tough problem. How do you solve climate change? Well, more golf. Golf is the answer to everything. All right, let's display our FAQs. There we go. Magic. How cool is that? Okay, let's move on here to, let's see, 3, we had to change the question. Okay, so we're going to use, that's what we're using the numbers for up here. Number 1, number 2. We're going to ask the user, which FAQ question would you like to change? So we get the number from that, convert it to an integer, and the elements in the list start at 0, so we want to convert that to an index into the list, and then present the FAQ. And how do we do that? The same way we did with this guy here. Alright, so we'll bring that down here. except when we don't care about the number. And then we want to replace the question, so we ask the user, okay, new Q, please enter the new question. Alright, so we have that new question, and then we want to store that in that particular instance of the object, which we can reference by we've got the list, the spot in the list, so that gets us our FAQ object. And then what's the attribute for that? Well, it's a question. Alright, let's see how that works. I've re-entered the questions. Let's see what they are, just to be sure. Okay, so that's what they look like. Now let's edit the question. Which question would you like to change? Okay, I want to change 1. Okay, okay, South Korea. I don't know. South Korea is not a problem, but you know. There we go. We've edited the question. All right, and you can do the same thing for the answers. So it's doing the same thing here to YY. Put it down here. And except instead of the question, it's the answer we're doing. Okay, and this goes into our answer attribute. Let's try it again. I've restarted the application, re-entered the questions and answers. Now I want to edit the answers, so I'll pick number 4. And let's change question 2. And the answer for that, well, I'm sorry, let's change the answer for FAQ 2. And the answer for that will be better golf clubs. Alright, let's see what we got. There we go. So that's what classes are all about. They can be really, really useful. They can really, really help simplify a complicated application. You have an initializer which you have the class definition, the keyword, and the name of the class. You've got the constructor. Every class needs a constructor with leading underscores and trailing underscores, 2 on each side of init. The self parameter is implied. You don't use that in calls, but it is used to reference an attribute for an object of the class. You absolutely need that to reference an object, an attribute of the class. And then you can have whatever methods you want in there. So also you can reference the attributes directly using the object variable name. What I mean by that is that's what we did in number 4 here. So right, so this is the object and this is the attribute with a period in between. That's how we stored a value in that attribute. You can also just get the value of that attribute by using the object name, a period, and the attribute name. And that's just a thumbnail sketch of what class definitions are all about and how you can use classes and objects.